So I thought I'd do a video telling you my top 5 alternative dramatic monologues for women. I have done monologue breakdown videos for all of the monologues I'm going to talk about today. So if they sound interesting to you, you can go into the description below and find the link for that particular monologue and go to the video that's going to walk you through all your prep. So you don't have to be scared that you're not going to find the information that you need. I'm also going to add the pros and cons of each monologue so you can kind of weigh up whether it's for you, and add a little bit of information about casting types so you can see if it actually might fit your vibe. Let's jump in. Number 1. Oh yet, for God's sake, go not to these wars. This is Lady Percy from Henry IV Part 2. And if you've never seen or read that play, you are probably in the majority of the world. There are not many productions of this play, but actually this is an awesome monologue. Lady Percy defies convention and just lets rip at her father-in-law, who's talking about going to war, even though he wouldn't go to war before to defend his son, who has now died. And of course, Lady Percy is very pissed about this. Pros for this monologue: it feels modern and it feels strong and visceral, and it's something that you can kind of get your teeth into. Cons are it's quite long and you really need to make sure you've got enough time to prep. You might also have to consider a cut depending on how long your audition monologue has to be. This might be for you if your casting type is a strong, independent woman. Number 2, Duchess of Gloucester. Oh, Gloucester, teach me to forget myself. This is from Henry VI Part 2, which again, you've probably never heard of, and that's okay. This is going to work for you in this case. Duchess of Gloucester has got some similarities to Lady Macbeth, but it's kind of like what might have happened if Lady Macbeth had said to Macbeth, hey, let's go and kill the king, and Macbeth said, what? No. She gets involved in witchcraft and is arrested and shamed and condemned, and her husband is like, well, this is embarrassing. This monologue is where she expresses her dismay that he does not stand up for her at all. Gloucester, letting your wife down. Pros for this monologue: she is a complex character and not necessarily likable. So if you're interested in playing a character that has that kind of complexity within her, this is an interesting one to look at. It's also a very heartfelt monologue, so if you can relate to that sense of betrayal, this might work for you too. The cons for this monologue is really that there are no productions to watch online. It's very, very hard to find examples, so you would have to definitely invest in some time reading the play. But as I said, I do have a monologue breakdown video for this one, so if you're interested, I can help you through it there. This monologue might work for you if you have a slightly vain or haughty or aloof casting type, or if you tend to look a little bit older on stage, either because you actually are older or because you have that more mature casting type. This might be a good one for you. Sir, I desire you do me right and justice. This is Queen Catherine speaking to Henry VIII. And if you have ever watched The Tudors or any other show that talks about Henry VIII's wives, you will know that Queen Catherine is actually a really beautiful character, and she really gets badly treated by Henry VIII. In this monologue, she's basically on trial and she's trying to appeal to her husband to stay with her. She is very intelligent and she uses kind of every tactic in the book, but it's quite subtle. Pros for this monologue: it's high stakes. It's also quite layered, so you can find a lot of subtlety and nuance if you're a more experienced actor, but you can also take it on the slightly slower side if you're more of a beginner. Cons: it's long. You will need to cut. But on the plus side, you can actually just cut the end of it and it really won't affect it too much, so it's not a hard one to cut. Catherine of Aragon was considered kind of a foreigner because she came from a different country. So if you've experienced feeling like an outsider or other, if you've been marginalized in any way, this could really work for you. For Paulina from the Winter's Tales, what study, torments, tyrant hast thou for me? In this monologue, Paulina, who is kind of a gentlewoman at court, goes off at King Leontes for the way he has treated his wife, because he has treated her abysmally. He is a jerk. The pros for this monologue is that it is fiery and feisty, so it is fun. But the cons are that the language is tricky. Again, I do have a video on this so I can walk you through it, but if you're a bit more of a beginner, maybe don't go for this one. This monologue might be for you if you have a little bit more experience with Shakespeare, or if you're just really good at playing those kind of ballsy characters. I would love to play Paulina, she's awesome. 5. Helena from All's Well That Ends Well. Till I have no wife, I have nothing in France. In this monologue, Helena has just received a letter from the love of her life that she has tricked into marriage, and he has basically said, until this whole thing is over and our marriage is annulled, I am not coming back to France, so get stuffed basically. And she is dealing with recognizing maybe some of the mistakes that she made, like maybe don't trick someone into marriage, even if you love them, because it's probably not going to work out, but also realizing that she has, in doing this, provoked her husband in running off to war to be a soldier because he doesn't want to be with her. Pros of this monologue: it has an amazing dramatic arc. It is so emotional and heartfelt, and there's so much going on for her. Cons is that it is quite a lot to grapple with because it is such a big dramatic monologue. This one might be for you if you have a heart, because honestly, I feel like anyone can relate to this monologue. Yeah, just anybody. Honestly, this is a killer. This one's awesome. I'm gonna give some honorable mentions here, some extra monologues that you might wanna look at if none of those 5 were really for you. Isabella from Measure for Measure. To whom should I complain? Man, if you have been affected, or if you relate to the Me Too movement, look at this monologue, because Isabella has been propositioned by a man in power. She is basically powerless to speak to anybody, and in this monologue she needs to decide if she's going to give up her chastity to this horrible person or if she's going to let her brother die. So the stakes are high and it feels relevant. You might also want to have a look at Portia's monologues from Julius Caesar, not Merchant of Venice. Portia from Merchant of Venice is done a lot. Portia from Julius Caesar is done a bit less. She also has about 4, maybe 5 monologues in one scene. She's a very strong, intelligent woman that has a lot to say and goes through a whole range of emotions within that scene. And you also have less prep because she only appears in a couple of scenes. So if you get a little bit overwhelmed by having to read a lot of stuff or watch a lot of stuff in your prep, this might be one that would be worth looking at. Go and have a look in the description box to take you where you want to go next. I will link a couple of things on screen for you to get you started. You might also want to have a look at my comic alternative monologues video if you need a comic monologue to go with this dramatic monologue. Other than that, let me know what your requests are for other monologue breakdown videos, and I will see you in the next video.